So ideally, we are live. And hello, everyone. Assuming that I've done this correctly, people will be able to see stuff. I don't know if we're going to have a lot of people watching, but I do know at least a couple of people are going to be checking in after everything has gone through. So let's make sure that this is actually functioning.
It is. I just checked.
Wonderful, wonderful. So, hello. We talked a little bit before the stream about all kinds of miscellaneous stuff, but you and I have been meaning to get together on stream for a minute now and be like, hey, we have very different mentalities on things. Let's discuss, because we're both people that can talk with others that have very different opinions and not get persnickety about it. So,
yeah, for the most part.
Well, if we are, maybe we'll be entertaining about being sniping at each other. So what we were originally going to talk about was like encounter balancing stuff, which, because I don't play or run D&D 5e anymore, and you basically exclusively do 5e, was going to be an interesting topic. I feel like I could have figured out something to talk about, but then we talked a little bit about campaign prep, and Missy just recently, about a month ago, did a stream or did a little chat with Jason Strife? No.
His name is Jason. It's Inothe Strife.
Inothe Strife. That's what it is. And
it says on his profile to not ask, so just don't ask.
Okay, well, I'm not gonna ask.
It's an old inside joke, I think.
Gotcha. So yeah, and then I was listening to that, and I was like, actually, I think this is going to be a great thing. And we were talking a little bit about different campaign preps. So what we're going to talk about today is sort of the mentality behind the way that we campaign prep. And the sort of instigating comment from this is me saying that for most of the games that I run, I treat running a game of D&D about the same level of prep and investment as loading up League of Legends to play for an evening, or recently Slay the Spire 2 came out, and I've been enjoying the hell out of it because I can play it easily while my son sleeps on my chest, and it's easier to just click buttons and do stuff. I don't have to do anything in real time. And Misty had a reaction to that. Misty, what is your thoughts on no prep, just run a game? It'll be fine.
I believe my exact words were, "That was unhinged. You crazy." I can't say those words on YouTube. You'll get demonetized.
I mean, I'd have to get monetized first.
Swear on this?
Yeah, knock yourself out. I mean...
Okay, great. You crazy motherfucker. What the hell are you talking about?
And yeah, and I think that sort of fundamentally goes with a couple of different things that I thought would be fun to talk about. And what I wanted to try to do is sort of explain why I think this is normal, and then see if we can sort of like bounce off each other. Because I also think the idea, listening to you talk about, oh, I want to have this arc plotted out, and I want to be able to like hit these story beats and have these moments with my players. That sounds insane to me. That sounds like it would be like it almost gives me anxiety to think about that being something that I want to do. And yeah, I just don't engage with that. So it'll be interesting to chat about it.
Yeah, I'm excited. I have some thoughts, and I have learned recently that maybe my version of DMing is not as common as I once thought it was. I've recently been introduced to that idea.
So what I think is interesting is from talking to you, over the past 8 months or so, and listening to some of the stuff on your channel, I think the way that you run games, at least this is the outsider's perspective here, right? Mm-hmm. It seems like the way that you run games is what a lot of people believe is like the ideal way, right? Like you have this like really cool prep document with all of your stuff, and you've got like, oh, this is the module we're running, and here's my 6 pages of notes with like stuff put into it and all that sort of stuff, and I make a scrapbook for my whole campaign, and it's this sort of very high prep production value, I guess. And I know you run it mostly or exclusively in person.
Um, Currently exclusively, I do have a pseudo online game of Daggerheart, but I am a player in that, and
Okay.
I haven't run it yet. But it's on my list of things to run.
Gotcha. But yeah, it's again that I feel like a lot of people when they think about what you're supposed to do as a DM, I think what you do is what a lot of people think, and what I do is what a lot of people actually end up doing once they realize that doing the other thing is a lot of work. And I just want to run games. And if I had to prep like how you prep, I would not be able to run 3 to 4 games a week sometimes, or 5 or 6
Well,
games a week sometimes.
and I think that's a key point because I don't run that many games. Because I'm not insane, Gary.
See, but again, it's the thing, right? It's the idea of how you prep, because and this is another thing, is that like it's not I'm saying, oh, you shouldn't prep at all. Is that I don't prep plots. I don't prep storylines and arcs and things like that. So I have a ton of prep that I do, but none of it feels like I have to do it. And I think that that's different in like play styles as well, right? Because I've also been playing in open tables for many years as my default play style. I do run a long form campaign, but it's kind of the exception to the rule, and rather than like the default that I run.
Gotcha. So, okay. For context, then, you run open tables. You run, I know, more West Marches style. You're like the biggest advocate I know for the West Marches situation. What is your prep? What do you prep?
So when I prep 2 categories of stuff. One thing that I prep are tools that I can use to generate stuff at the table, right? So this is random encounter stuff. And I am a very big advocate for your random encounters should effectively be a story prompt for you in the moment, right? So basically, if I get something that happens, it's going to generate something for me that's not going to be, hey, here's 2d6 wolves. It's going to be a story beat, and then I have to go, oh, how does this fit in, and build it from right. It's sort of an improv prompt, right?
Okay.
But it gives me enough of the pieces that I can really quickly resolve it, and then we can get into doing. And in my games, random encounters tends to be a really big piece of the puzzle. There are groups that will organize that their primary motivator is to go out and tinker with the random encounter table. Like, they don't have another objective. They're doing what's called clearing the way, where they're going to find stuff in the area to go cause problems and then see what they can learn about the local area. But they do that through this sort of exploration heavy idea of, oh, there's a bunch of stuff here that's got interesting stuff in the background. We need to just go and dig into the scenery and see what we find. So a lot of my prep goes into what's in the scenery, goes into what these things mean, going into the background stuff that my players will only see sort of the bang on effects of, right? So they get to see, I create something and then I build something on top of it, and then I put it in the random encounter table that connects to it. But I don't really have an idea of how the players are going to interact with it. Like, I don't have a plot point they have to find. It's just up to them to see something cool and decide that it's worthwhile digging into the scenery for. So that's one type of thing. And the other type of thing is prep where the players explicitly tell me what they want to do. So, if the players decide, oh, we are really interested in going into the Thorned Archway, we want to just explore this dungeon, they will tell me that. They will schedule a session for the Thorned Archway, and then I will prep that thing because I know that's where they want to go and I know that's what they want to do. But I'm also not going to be prepping like plot points, really. I'm just going to be prepping, here is stuff, here's how it ties into the world. Because, and I've been told this a couple of times, in my campaigns, the main player tends to be the world, tends to be the campaign world, and it tends to be like how things interact and the politics and all the stuff that's going on that makes them feel like they can just kind of roll around in the setting and have fun.
I don't know if you can hear my dog groaning right now, but that is my dog, and I'm so sorry.
I cannot hear it. I can just see him being cute in the very background.
Yeah, he's being a turd right now. Okay, so that explains that. How long have you been DMing is my next question.
So I ran my first game on October the 29th, 1999.
Okay. For context, I was born in 1993.
Yeah. So I've been running a while, and I also I consider myself a relatively high volume DM. Like, there's definitely people that run more games than me, but I feel like most of those people are probably doing it for pay. Like, people that are doing start playing. Like, I know Nico does quite a few games, but he's doing it, as one of his main ways of getting income. No problem with that at all. Paid DMing, I have no issues with. But when I'm not, when I don't have a child that was born last week or something like that, I tend to be running on average between 2-ish games a month is about the minimum that I'll ever go to. And I start getting like I feel like something's wrong if I'm below about 2 games a month. So, and I tend to go for between 50 and 100 sessions of games per year.
That's a lot.
Well, and
so
yeah.
So I asked that because I think part of why there's a big difference in this is because you have been DMing so much longer, and you have improv skills from those years of DMing.
Yeah, but the other thing is, it wasn't I have improv skills and so I started DMing more. It was more, I got into a situation where I had basically an unlimited amount of people who wanted to play. Mm-hmm. And then that then said, okay, well, I want to run. What is the minimum amount of stuff I have to do to be able to run a game? I'll do that and then immediately be able to run. It's one of the reasons that I've never been able to really watch actual plays. I have no problems with actual plays, but I would either watch it and get immediately bored because it wasn't a good one, because there's a lot of ones out there that are just not entertaining to watch. They're probably really fun to play through, but they're just not entertaining to watch. Or they are entertaining to watch, and what would happen is I'd watch like 15 minutes of Critical Role and be like, ooh, this gives me an idea. I bet I could do this thing. And then I would pause Critical Role, I'd load up my Discord, and then I'd say, hey, if I opened roles for people to come and play in 15 minutes, would I have players? And then I'd immediately have like 6 or 7 people be like, I could play in 15 minutes. And I'd never unpause Critical Role, and I would just run a 4-hour session of D&D. So it just...
And you were diagnosed with ADHD when?
Technically never. But no, it was just thing. I would just get inspired, right? And it would be like, so, and then when I was running, when I did my campaign for All My Sty, the last playtest, so campaign 5, which is the major open playtest for my game, I was the only DM for the vast majority of it. And I personally ran 251 sessions, 4 to 6 hour sessions, in 13 months. So between 4.5 and 5 sessions a week for over a year. And I would not be able to do that if I didn't force myself to build a system, but build like a game system, but also build a system for myself that made me able to run without prep, without having to spend time outside of session, because it would be impossible to keep up that pace and then, still be dad and husband and, do the laundry and that sort of stuff.
Yeah. So I am almost the exact opposite in every single way. So let's see. To start, I have been DMing since 3 years-ish now. 2.5 maybe? I don't know. Time's fake.
I have a 6-day-old. Time is very fake.
Time is soup. But yeah, so about 2.5, 3 years that I've been DMing. Okay, let's go back here in the time machine. My first experience with D&D was D&D 5e. Mm-hmm. This was in 2017. So not too long after it just kind of got on its feet, me and a group of friends started playing online on Roll20. And I will be transparent and say I do not remember a single thing about that campaign. because it was happening during like some personal stuff with me, like my dad was sick and it was just like not a good time. Like I don't remember any of it. Trauma's a bitch. So I remember enjoying it and having fun with it, but it wrapped up. It never really came up again. We didn't have another DM friend. And then a few years ago, let's see, if I've been DMing 3 years, then probably 4 years ago. Is that right? That must be, because it was after COVID. Yeah, because it was when Baldur's Gate came out. I got really into Baldur's Gate, and I went to hang out with a friend from work. We went on like a double date thing to a haunted house, and I was like, by the way, you're a DM. If you have space in a campaign at some point, I would love to sit at a table and try again, because I haven't been able to in years. He was like, well, actually, I'm about to run Curse of Strahd, if you've heard of it. So me and my husband joined as players, and it quickly escalated, devolved, however you'd like to phrase that, depending on how you feel about that. And now he's one of my players. We're even closer friends. He's coming with me to Gen Con. And I wanted a game that played to my strengths.
Mm-hmm.
And I am, if it wasn't obvious, a theater kid.
Mm-hmm.
I know, shock and awe from everyone. The entire chat is shocked, I'm sure. But, being a theater kid, I can do the yes and I can do a little bit of improving. But I'm also I also have an English degree and a library science degree. So storytelling is kind of my thing. I love narrative stuff. That is the stuff that I like, is the role-playing aspects and the drama. I love the drama. If you can make me cry at a table, mission accomplished. Like, that is peak. That is what I want. And I don't mean crying in frustration because I died to a fire troll. I mean, like, rip out my heart. Goals.
Yeah, I say this in one of my videos that one of my primary goals is to make one of my players cry in character. Like, if I feel like I ever have a player that cries in character, I have won Dungeons and Dragons, right? Like, I have won D&D if that happens.
I haven't gotten actual tears, but my cleric did tear up the last session. So in my Oops All Spellcasters,
I've had a couple instances, and they're like these little gold nuggets, right? It's that, it's the Inside Out, like, it's that core memory, like, little core memory ball in my brain of some like iconic moments of having people cry in character. But they're very few and far between, but they're precious.
Yeah. And so with my DMing, I use scrapbooks mostly because I have the ADHD version that gives me the hyper-focus superpower, which means that it's literally all I can think about at any given time. So I try not to... I'll prep stat blocks and maps ahead of time, but everything else I do is very either reactionary, or it is stuff happening in the background that I'm either hinting at the players are a thing, or could become a thing should they choose to engage. Oh, go ahead. It looks like you have a thought.
So I do. And I wonder, well, two things. First of all, if you are at Gen Con and you do have time to come play at my table, I would love to run a game for you.
I would love to.
So start there. Secondly, I would be really curious if you would be willing to consider undergoing a quest, because there's a skill that I sort of developed in the sort of middle of my DMing years that really heavily influences how I run games, because I feel like when I was a much younger DM that I felt like the way that I had to like really care about my players' backstories and care about everything that was going on and sort of build the world where they were the main character was the only way to play. And then I did a couple of different things, one playing in a West Marches game, and then two playing in a living game. that very much changed the way that I think about things. And one of the things that was super cool for me was I wrote for Living Forgotten Realms. So there was the Living Forgotten Realms was I think the current version is called Adventurers League. That's the 5e version of it. So it's the like official organized play version of things. So you write these little modules. The modules come out at a specific time, and there's like a season that you can play through and stuff like that. But I also ran for a group called the Guild Living Campaign. Hello to any Guild members that see this. They are still running. It's been like over a decade now. And, you know, at the time that I was really active there, we had like 200-ish players and like 30-ish DMs that would share that pool of players being able to do stuff, playing each other's games. And this is the quest part, right? What we would do is we would write these adventures, these 1-shot, 2-shot, 3-shots, and then we would run them, and then people would run them and play them a character, but then they would become part of our portfolio, and then players would be able to request any of the things in our portfolio. And there are some of the adventures in my portfolio that I've run 20 times now. And this isn't like, oh, I've run Curse of Strahd multiple times. Like there's no baseline for this. This is me iterating on an idea and going over and over again and trying to like keep it interesting and fresh for me as they're going through new paths and finding new things. And it was really interesting to run for a lot of different people, but with the same basic premise, and being able to repeat that a couple of times. It completely unlocked some things of like, oh man, this is so much easier to bounce off of stuff. Because I don't consider myself very good at improv, but I felt really comfortable running one of these things. And when people go completely off the rails, I was like, oh no, I've done this a couple of times now. I know how to adjust. And it felt like the skill from the living games that was just, it is so helpful for me as a DM to feel comfortable running now.
Yeah. So I do actually do that with my one-shots. So I call it a newbie's one-shot. It's a haunted house. You go into a haunted house, it's level 1 through, well, if they were to continue after that, you would be level 3. I've run it 3 times now, for different groups. And every single time they want to buy the haunted house and renovate it. That is just the real American dream, right?
Yeah. Home ownership.
Yeah, it's home ownership. That's the real loot at the end of the haunted house, is that you get to live there if you so choose. So I have run that a couple of times. That's just in my back pocket. I could run that in 10 minutes if you wanted. I just need time to draw out a map. And pull up the stat blocks, because I sure as hell don't have those memorized.
What's interesting to me, though, is that, like, if you think about what you just said, imagine you did that with 30 or 40 different adventures, and then that became your default headspace of, oh, yeah, I could run that adventure in 10 minutes, but it's not that one adventure, it's anything in the world that I've already sort of prepped the background for. That's why I run so many games. That is the mindset I got to.
Interesting. So I'm seeing where we're disconnecting here. I'm seeing it. Because when it comes to the actual D&D part of these games, I really probably don't prep that much. I need a map, I need stat blocks, and I need my generic, like, they go to haunted house. In haunted house, they find A, B, and C encounters. Profit. That's not hard to prep. However, in the games that I run that I have that scrapbook for, so Wild Beyond the Witchlight is a module that I run.
Right.
Or am running for the first time. I have quickly learned while doing this that I hate modules.
Wild Beyond the Witchlight is not the easiest module to run.
Don't love it. I have to cut so much of it. And so that 6 pages of notes that you see in that game is also the 6 pages that I've taken from an entire chapter that I said is relevant. So it's not so much that I'm taking 6 pages of notes on a 30-page chapter, it's that I have condensed 30-page chapter into 6 pages of note. so that I know what's relevant and what I'm actually bringing in, because dear God, there's too much happening here. I don't need all of this information. This is irrelevant. The other thing that I run is I love high intrigue games, and I love heavy role play heavy games, and that is what my players crave. And the things that I have to prep for that are not your D&D. Like, yes, I have to prep my stat blocks and everything, but actually what ends up taking time is I make newspaper props, I make letter props, I have trinkets, and that is truly just a high production thing. That is something that I enjoy doing and putting into this game. If you've seen, and I know you said you don't do actual plays, but if you have heard of A Court of Fey and Flowers,
I have not.
It is an actual play put on by Abria Iyengar on Dropout with the Dimension 20 people. And she uses a combination, and I kind of stole it from her, and I've kind of adapted it into my own thing. Good Society Rules, which is the Jane Austen RPG.
Okay.
Fun fact, there's a Jane Austen RPG.
Yeah.
About trinkets, and basically if you role play really well in a scene, or you have a really intense scene, I can reward it. Instead of with inspiration, you get a trinket, and that trinket then you can cash in for basically an automatic success. You can't crit, but it's an automatic success in this game, which is really convenient, and it's a fun resource use. It's a fun resource mechanic that my players love, partially because we're all ADHD little magpies, and we all love little shiny trinkets, and they're all in person, so they're like actual little like thrift shop finds that I found to give to them. Or I spray painted some cards gold and drew on them for some of them, because I do have a budget for a game that's not being recorded or filmed in any way. So what I end up spending a lot of prep on is, okay, well, they want to start a scandal. They want to start a rumor that Dr. Andrews is actually grave robbing. Okay, that's going to go in the paper. And then how does Andrews respond to that? And does anyone else respond to that in a certain way? And then weaving that together and putting that into that ether to react to what they've done.
See, that's really interesting, because I do the same thing. I don't build props because I'm just not that. Well, one, most of my games are not in person; they're online, so I don't tend to do that many props for things. I also just don't really like it most of the time. So it doesn't inspire me to do stuff, so I don't do that. I do sometimes, but not very frequently. But what I do tend to do, which occasionally I let my players sort of see behind the screens, is one. In my like long-term D&D campaign that I run, I've run a 4th edition campaign that I've been running for several years. It's the one that my players actually flew to my house and chilled at my house for a week, and we played every day for like 10 hours a day. It was great for like a big story thing that happened in the middle of the campaign. And by flew in, I mean like one of my players flew from Australia to come play in the game.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and she's blind, so I will forever be grateful for the fact that a blind woman flew across the planet to come play with me. Because
I apologize if you hear this cracking as I like prep a dog toy to get them to stop, or dog treat to get my dogs to stop being obnoxious.
No worries.
I should not reward this behavior,
but yeah, so like I shared with that group, like, oh, I was really interested in creating a specific world, but I wanted to see, like, I wasn't going to be beholden to the rules of physics, but I wanted to see, like, what would the physics say about a world where it would exist with these sort of parameters. And so I did the math to build the solar system, and then build the planets and put the gas giants where they're supposed to be, and did all the orbital mechanics, and then figured out where the tilt of the planet would be and how much oxygen I could force spike it to be to still have life on it, and what the cooling went to be. And like I have a map that draws out all the trade winds so I could see where like the cultures and stuff would develop. And for me, I don't consider that prep. That's just something I was gonna do because I was curious if I could make a world where having a deep, dark, cold ocean full of Cthulhu monsters would be like biologically possible. Like having 100-foot long monsters in the ocean that try to eat everything probably doesn't work unless you have a world that's very cold, very high oxygen, like has all these parameters. And then I found, oh look, there's math that I can actually build this.
So you would not consider world building as part of your prep?
Yes, correct.
Okay, interesting. Because I guess I would kind of consider it part of mine. Like it's pre-game prep, like it's pre-campaign start prep. But with the game that I run, and also I just saw one of the comments in chat, economy is finally robust enough to support a Jane Austen RPG. Yeah, it's only $20 for the PDF. Please go support them. It's really cool. It's very simple, easy. It's got an epistolary phase, so like if you like writing letters, that's great. I, an English major, enjoy it greatly. I understand why it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Also, that person who's in chat, I've shown you the idea of, like, during the big play test, if somebody made it to level 10, they became the iconic character, and I think I showed you the, like, mini for our iconic fighter. The person who's in chat is Giles. That is our iconic fighter. So, hello, Giles. And yeah, so, like, I don't... And here's the thing, right? Like, and this is for anyone who happens to hear this, if I can clip this way and throw it at people, be able to say, like, don't ever feel like, oh, I have to world build to this level before I can start the game. Because even my very complex settings, I'm constantly adding to it. I'm constantly building in the background. I'm refining what's going on. Not because I feel like I have to, it's because it's fun. So I kind of talk about how when I run games, I try to run games and I try to build my system to have you do the prep and have you do the world building that you're inspired to do, rather than having to do the stuff you feel required to do. So you sort of lower the requirement as low as you can, and then everything you put on top of it, it doesn't feel like work because it's something you'd be... The only difference is instead of just like thinking about it in the shower or while you're on a walk, you write it down. And that's the only difference. Yeah,
and I think that's why, like I tell people, like, don't be me. I'm insane. Don't be me. Because I do prep a lot, in that I put my prep into a binder.
Mm-hmm.
That is not necessary. And realistically, I do not use that binder.
Mm-hmm.
I simply do not. It is there for me as, like, a corkboard situation. Which I have now. You can't see it in this shot, but I do have a corkboard, which is very helpful for me figuring out where mysteries branch off to. But I love running mysteries. So it's very easy to get me into that, like, mindset anyway. So it's something that I enjoy. It's definitely a prep that I enjoy, and that's why I'm willing to spend this kind of time on it. If I didn't enjoy it, I would not be doing it.
Yeah. And it's funny because, so I used to do, every year for a while, I would do a seminar at Origins and Gen Con, where I would run a seminar of how to DM, right? A new DM's seminar. And one of the questions that would get asked on a semi-regular basis, where I always felt like the people in the crowd wanted me to give whoever asked this question wanted me to have a different answer than the one that I gave them, because they felt it was extremely dissatisfying. Someone would ask me, how do you run a mystery? What are your advices? You know, what advice do you have to run a mystery, to run a murder mystery? And I have one piece of advice. And that piece of advice is, you as a DM should not care whether they are able to solve or whether they solve the mystery. That is one of the core pieces of mysteries in my game and mysteries in my world, is that there are all these things that are going on in the background. There are all these interesting things to figure out. I am very invested if you are invested in figuring out the answer and being like, yeah, let's dig into this. Let's see what we can find. Let's see what's going on. I do not care if you do not solve it. Like, I'm not going to lose any sleep over you not getting to the answer. Who done it? I don't know, man. You didn't figure it out. You guys got distracted, went over here and did something else. That's fine. I'm not upset about it. And I always felt like there was this thing of people wanting it to be like, you know, they wanted to run a session that was Knives Out, right? That was the movie that had this clever twist and clever ending, right? They wanted to be Columbo, but in D&D form. And I'm like, but the mysteries that are super satisfying when the players actually solve them are the ones that they come across, but they do a thing, they go and do something else, and they come back to it. Like, wait, we have different context here. What if, and then they solve it 2 years after they first heard about it. And then my players, the only mysteries and only like puzzles that my players will ever talk about, like long term, are the ones that they solved in a completely different method. And some of them end up being running jokes. Snark Knight was also a player in that campaign that I ran from 1 to 30 in D&D 4th edition, where they had a running joke where they had like a couple of things from the very beginning of the campaign when they were just like, we never figured out what those things were. And then it's just okay. Like, it just makes the world feel real because you don't have everything tied up in these little packets, these little bows.
Yeah. And I agree on that with, I would call them background mysteries or arc mysteries.
Mm-hmm.
But when a murder mystery is the whole plot, like the whole, this is my pitch to you is a murder mystery, you do kind of need them to solve it, right? That said, they're invested in solving it. That's their goal, or at least for my players. My players heard murder mystery, and they became bloodhounds.
So here's the thing. One of those living games that I made. So I built a module that I've run 20 something times, and at its heart, it's a murder mystery. I've had maybe half of the groups that go through that adventure correctly solve the murder mystery. The other half of the people either get distracted and do something else, or they solve it incorrectly. They get the wrong answer, they get a different answer, they arrest an innocent party and get them convicted. They do all kinds of crazy shit. Some of them kill the person who did it, and rather than arrest them. But that has made me feel empowered for so long to be like, yes, I will pitch you this as a murder mystery, but I don't know if you're going to solve it because we're not watching a movie about a murder mystery, right? If you watched a movie about a murder mystery and you didn't know if they were going to solve it or not, it would feel weird. Like, and if it was a murder mystery that had an ambiguous ending, right, where you didn't get it solved, that would be the whole vibe of the movie, right? That would be the selling point, is that it is unclear at the end what happened. But to have one where you think that you're going to get the answer and then you just never do would be super unsatisfying as a movie. But I found as a game to play, it's actually really fun for the players to get to the end. And then especially in that open table where people be like, I want to play this adventure again. I want to make different choices because I don't think we made it to the right answer. And be like, yeah, see what happens next time.
Yeah. I enjoy that, and I like it a lot. I think that would work really well with one of my tables that I run. But my bloodhounds that I mentioned, absolutely not. They're finding it. They are focused in. They are locked in and committed. And I think part of that is how you weave the world too, because you're weaving it in like this living game. There's a murder mystery, but like, to you if you solve it. Whereas I said, if you don't solve this, there are terrible, dire consequences for your characters.
Yeah, but I mean, again, and that's sort of the same thing for me. Is if you don't solve this, there are consequences for your character. If I do not follow through on the consequences, if you don't solve it, then I don't feel like I'm doing a good job as a DM. We talked about this slightly before we started here about fudging. And one, in All My Sty, it's not impossible to fudge. It's really hard because the DM rolls basically no rolls. Like the players are the ones that are rolling. Like the players roll to make attacks on the monsters, and then the monsters give a DC, effectively a target number that they have to roll to avoid. So I don't attack them, right? They just say, hey, make me a TN21 resolve check. Good luck. And then they roll their thing, and it's all on them, right? So I can't fudge their die roll. But the kind of lost my train of thought there because I got distracted. Got distracted talking about my game and not what we're...
Pitch me one of your one-shot, like your murder mystery one-shot. Pitch that to me. Give me an elevator pitch.
So, I mean, it's been many, many years since I've run it, but the elevator pitch for that one shot was basically the Ermlasbeer is a city of shadow. There's a bunch of darkness and dark dealings. There is a merchant who is willing to pay adventurers to go and cleanse a spirit from their haunted house. And the characters find out basically, you know, the little thing at the bottom says that it is tagged as a narrative adventure. So the story is very heavy. In the game that we ran, the adventures would either say they are arenas, they're basically combat only, they're normal sessions, or they're narrative sessions where they're like, you might not have any combat, that they're heavy story based. So it's tagged as a narrative session and it's tagged as a mystery, like a murder mystery. And so they know going in, it's a murder mystery. We're getting hired to cleanse this haunting, but there's going to be something mysterious that's happening here. And that's how they get pitched. And they go, okay.
So, and is that typically like a one shot, like
one
a
shot
campaign of like 5 sessions? Okay.
One session.
Okay, because mine's a whole campaign that I pitched. So my elevator pitch is a smidge longer.
Mm-hmm.
But 1889 fantasy London. Steampunk adjacent, fantasy adjacent. The running tag we're using is historical until inconvenient, which basically means pretty dresses but women have rights.
The scandal.
I know, the scandal. I like the vibes, but like I want to be able to root for my players. They're all nobles, so reputation matters. They're in the upper echelons of society. That shit matters. They have been given a task to find out what is causing all of these murders on the East Side. Currently, it is getting pinned on Jack the Ripper because we already have one, masked murderer that we can't solve. We don't need a second one causing a panic. So a lot of these murders are getting pinned on Jack, but it's not Jack's MO. You need to solve it or all of your secrets get aired out. And these secrets that I then made with my characters are really dark, like would ruin their reputation. This is not just, oh, I slept with my best friend's wife. This is actually I'm Jack the Ripper. Actually, I'm Frankenstein's monster. Actually, I'm the prince in disguise.
I realized where I got distracted there, which is going into the no fudging thing of basically being like, I have to put consequences and then they have to resolve those consequences because they need to be real. So I don't want to put anything that's like, oh, your character is completely unable to function if this happens as a consequence, unless we're all on the table of being like, yeah, we're okay with that being. And that was me going like that. I don't do the fudging part of it because I want the consequences to be there. So I want them to be able to fail to solve the mystery.
Sure. They're absolutely able to fail. That would have been a totally different take that this could have taken if they all failed and had all of their dirty laundry aired out. One of them, the wildest shit that ever happened to me is I was prepping this game and I asked people to think of their prep. One of my players messages me first thing in the morning. It's like 7 a.m. I'm waking up and getting ready for work. I check my phone, for the morning news. First message I see, good morning, I would like to steal my sister's eyes. What a wake-up call. But that was the pitch. And so through that then, I've woven all of their backstories into my campaign. So this campaign, I could run it for a different group, but it would be entirely different because this is so interwoven into these characters in particular. Like, I could say, yeah, this guy's in charge. This is who actually did all the murders. Here's where you find clue A, B, and C. But everything else would be changed entirely if I were to run this for another group because it's so intrinsically tied to those backstories.
Yeah, I mean...
And I think that's where the prep really, really differentiates because that is for this homebrew campaign. Not so much.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because, I think about my my long campaigns that I've run. My 4th edition 1 to 30 campaign was about 7.5 years. Same characters, from nobodies to literal gods. And then the campaign that I'm running right now is we're about 4 years into the campaign. We've got about 3 years left probably on the campaign itself. So those games I tend to run that are 7 to 8-ish years long. And even in those things, I don't build it around the players, right? I build the world to be like, we build the world together, like do the world building thing. I ran a world building stream. I was like, hey, what are the things that you guys care about? What do you guys want to put into things? And then go from there. Also, hello, Hearthwitch of Kentucky. I'm glad you're able to make it into the stream. And, you know, and then they have to engage with the world, and then I see what they engage with, and then we sort of build the pieces together. But I'm not going to... I think the campaign will be very different with different players, but I don't ever really design the world around the players. Because I think that's the part that would give me anxiety. Like if I had this really cool thing that I felt like excited about, and I was like, ooh, I built this thing for you, and then I would feel like oh man, I have to like force this in front of them somehow. Like I'm sort of building this, even if the players don't even know I'm doing it, right? Like I'm building this sort of psychosis of myself, of being like, oh, this would be really cool with that person's backstory. So I'm going to put that in the campaign so it connects to their backstory. But now I've got to make sure that I can quantum ogre it in front of them somewhere to be able to do that. And I'm always like, no, if it comes up, it comes up. Let's see what happens. And I try to contextualize what's already happening in the world with their backstory stuff so I can give them chances to bring that into the campaign, but I don't build things around it. Yeah, so.
See, and that's very similar yet different because, you know, again, we play a Daggerheart campaign. We just made a whole world. That was my last video that I made. I've been tired. Work's been kicking my butt. So it's been a hot minute since a video. I've got more cooking, but my last video was about world building in Daggerheart, and it's that we build this world together. It's very, very cool, and I'm so excited to play in that world. But I also know that I, as a player, intentionally made my backstory so significant to this world that it will force itself into the plot, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like, I, as a player, so it's like a pirate campaign, right? It's high seas adventure.
Mm-hmm.
My character is the captain of a ship. Her dad was a captain before he died. There's no way that doesn't come up.
Mm-hmm.
So, not that it has to be the main plot, but there's no way that doesn't come up. So I'm very excited to see what our DM does with that.
Yeah, and that's the thing for me, right? Where it's like, it's a difference between like, hey, I have this thing, kind of, this is just a tool for you to use to build along the way, where you're kind of giving your DM sort of a layup option. And it's like, hey, this is a thing you can use, but there's no pressure to do it. But then there is this idea, right, especially in, I think, more in Daggerheart spaces, honestly, than in D&D spaces, at least in my experience, is this idea of like, oh no, you have to kind of do the Matt Mercer thing, right, where he's like, I'm going to build an entire arc exploring your backstory, right? I'm building it from the ground up to explore your backstory. So if you watch like if you watch the actual plays, or, you know, if you're like me and can't watch the actual plays, but I have no problem watching Mighty Nine and The Legend of Vox Machina, but like The Legend of Vox Machina, like what, at least the first half of the first season, or like a good chunk of the first season, it's like, oh, we're going to go and deep dive into Percy's backstory, right? It's super focused around Percy. That sort of idea would give me anxiety. I would be like, oh no, I don't want to force this. And it feels like something that is there. Like, yes, we can spend entire arcs where we are diving into people's backstories in my games, but I always feel like it's the other way around, right? It's kind of like what you said, like, hey, it's a player that's like, I have this stuff and it's gonna just happen at some point. Whereas the sort of guiding how do you DM principles are like, oh, find these things in your character's backstory and then weave them into your story so that they can encounter them. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. I just want to build a world and have them do shit in it. And if it comes up, it comes up. And if it does come up and it like builds into the world, it'll be fulfilling for me and for both of us if it's like, oh, now it's come to fruition.
Okay, so is it, when you say it'll give you anxiety, is it the act of it where like you're just uncomfortable in the process of it and you're afraid to do it badly? Or is it the putting a spotlight on a person that may or may not want to be spotlighted at your table? Or like what part of it gives you the anxiety?
The part of it that gives me the anxiety is like, oh, I made this. It's almost like making a present, right? I made a present for my friend that I'm running this cool game for them. And I feel like I can only deliver this present if certain conditions are met. And I need to meet these conditions so I can present this cool present to my friend. That's the anxiety part, is I feeling like I have to set this piece up. And here's the thing. I've done this before. And it's worked out perfectly fine. Mm-hmm. But that sensation for me as a DM will stop me from running games as frequently as I want, right? So I think about, like, we were talking about this earlier, how I run a lot of games most of the time. And then I look at like, oh, what is stopping me from running 5 games a week? Well, in most instances, it's my kids. So, which is not a bad thing.
Sleep, Gary. You need sleep.
Yeah. I'm a dad first, and then a dungeon master like fourth. But like, so the kids come first. That's fine. Okay, if I have time to run it, what's stopping me from doing things? Well, a lot of times it's the individual prep on things. It's making sure I have the right tools. Do I have online maps if I'm running online? But then there are a lot of them are like, if I'm running a campaign arc, a lot of times it's, oh, that sort of need to weave the characters' desires and weave their motivations and stuff into what's happening. And what I found is, if I take that anxiety out, like if I take that hey, I've made a gift, here I've got to meet these conditions. If I take that piece out, the conditions out, and I built the gift part out, and I just build the world and I can respond to, oh, cool, this is a moment, here's a spotlight, shine it on, that I can then run, as long as I feel the world that I'm in is something I understand and I know really well, then I can just run it and I don't have to prep anything. I can just go straight through. One of my players at one point, they were describing my game to somebody else, and they were like, oh, well, what's the plot of the game? And they were like, there kind of isn't a plot, but it's a good thing. And they're like, what do you mean it isn't a plot? And they said, well, if you decided that you, in this fantasy world, wanted to become a farmer and then got bored becoming a farmer until you became an inventor and you built a spaceship and then you went into space on your spaceship, that would be perfectly normal in his campaign. Because because I'm very reactive. It's like, here's a world, here's all the stuff that's happening, do stuff, and then we'll have fun. But I don't want to lay the track, and I don't want to quantum ogre something in front of you, because that part of it isn't as fun for me. That part gives me anxiety.
Okay. See, that's the part that I love the most, and this is probably because I know gift giving is one of my love languages, where, like, if I like you, I want to gift you all of the things. All of the things. And I love my players dearly. Now, again, I don't run that many games compared to you, because I'm not insane. I am insane in very different ways, actually. But so this Victorian London campaign, we only meet monthly.
Mm-hmm.
We meet one Saturday a month, and we usually will play for like 8 hours. So it's a long session. I am exhausted. It's from like 1 to 8 to 10 p.m. whenever we get to a good stopping point. Somewhere in there. I'm exhausted afterwards. But it's always really satisfying, and it's kind of great because that big gap of time makes people really excited, because they're like, hey, Misty, what did you mean by that? Hey, Misty, what do you mean that, oh yeah, it's been 6 weeks and you haven't heard from Arthur yet? That's weird. That's weird. He normally writes you at least once a month. Hey, Misty, what do you mean by that? Because they forgot about Arthur. Is Arthur in trouble? I don't know. Maybe he's just late. You don't know. Hard to say. I love that. And that makes them sit on that for a month. And it drives them insane, and it's delightful. I love that for me. But I also only meet with my Witchlight crew once a month. And then I'm in a Daggerheart campaign and 2 other D&D campaigns. So, like, I'm getting my D&D fix. But with all this prep, it does take me time to do that because, again, I'm making props, I'm making letters. I'm insane. So, like, I have a spreadsheet with the different fonts that I use for my letters because each NPC has a different font. So that way, if they get a letter claiming to be from Dr. Andrews, but it's in a different font, they know something's fucked. Or I also use wax seals, so if they get it and it's not the wax seal that it should be in, they know that it's weird.
I do the same thing, but my wax seals and fonts are languages.
Interesting.
Languages and names for things. We had a thing in my long ongoing campaign, the one that's been running for like 5 years now, where the players were at this court thing. They're in the court of the Vampire Queen, and they had sort of met this character, and they knew this person was Lord Verdidig, but was also known as Aegis. And when they saw the introduction for this character, and they were introduced as Ibn Zinshi Zinshua, they immediately were like, "Oh," and the players were like, "Ibn, that's not a title that's in the common tongue. That is a title that is in the primordial language, and we think that that's like an honorific title, but their name is in Draconic. That's a Draconic name." And so this person that we know, we're pretty certain he's an ancient dragon of some kind, because they were able to like immediately pick up on that, because I'm so anal retentive when it comes to languages. Languages are basically how I built the world. That's my fonts and wax seals thing. So different vibes, but same thing.
Yeah. Same thing, different font. Pun intended. But I do think it's interesting to me because this Victorian campaign in particular took a lot of forethought. It took a lot of work ahead of time. Like, I was meeting one-on-one with each player to talk about their secrets because I need to know their secret, but the other players can't know their secret yet.
Mm-hmm.
And like building their characters together to make sure that I wasn't missing anything. And then after I had all of these pieces together, it was like, okay, so how do I make this make sense? And truly, like, red string on the corkboard, web. And I kind of love it because it's like a giant puzzle for me. My brain likes making those connections because, again, I'm weird in a different way. And I really loved being able to weave backstories in like that. And I didn't go that deep for this first season, so I would say that we're wrapping up our first season. Our season finale is in May, and we actually booked. There's a little like Victorian Airbnb.
Oh, that's cool.
In town, so we booked the whole house, and we're gonna do like our whole like finale, that the masquerade ball in May. There, like everyone knows that is like what the climax is coming to. Like it has been foreshadowed enough. We get the hint.
That's very cool.
So we've only got one more session between now and then, so I'm very excited. But and then I'll take a few months break because I don't want to burn out, and then we'll get back into it with season 2, following the next questions. And I think what I could have wrapped it up in a nice little bow, but that's not as fun, and I wouldn't have been able to touch on every single character's thing. So I literally reached out to my players and said, "Hey, I have ideas for this backstory that I want to bring in, but it might not happen this season or this arc. Are you just making sure you're good with that?" And obviously most people are, because they're having a fun time solving the other mystery with the Chimera and the Jack the Ripper thing. And then season 2 will start, and we're going to start getting into more questions. But I think my favorite part is that I get to leave questions open for them. I don't have to answer all the questions. Great. You caught the monster. You figured out who was doing it. Good job. You also learned that you've got about 20 other questions that came up in the process of this. Oh well. Go have fun at the ball.
See you next time. Have fun storming the castle.
Have fun storming the castle. And I have ideas for season 2. I've definitely got it mostly fleshed out. I just need I need to figure out where A, B, and C are going. Like, what clue A, clue B, and clue C all need to be in a couple of different quests because I want to stretch this out enough to where they get a couple of levels in there. And yeah, I think for me, weaving those backstories in, for me, it's just fodder. It is fodder to the machine. Like, oh, you're a cleric, and you're actually not a cleric of a different god than what you claim to be. Well, that's juicy in 1800s London. Let's take that. How can I make that relevant? Well, what if there's some hauntings and you need to solve those? And what does your magic look like that's maybe a little different from the other clerics? And, oh, you're a grave robber? Okay, well, what does that look like for a nobleman? And to weave in those little hints and to, if you're a prince on the run, great, why are you on the run? Probably something to do with the queen. Hey, what's the queen doing right now? Let's make her scary. You know what sounds really fun? A biblically accurate ASMR. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, and that can be, I don't know, it's one of those things of, it's not that I refuse to use backstory stuff, it's that I refuse to plan for backstory stuff. It's like I'll use it in the moment, but if it ends up being relevant to what we're doing, I'll run with it. But I don't like setting it up unless it just naturally happens, right? If they set themselves up, great. But I don't want to put it on my plate because I want to have as little on my plate that I feel like I have to do to just run and to hit the ground running really fast. One thing I did want to ask is if you're taking that big break during the summer, I'd be curious to get your take as a player on playing in my West Marches game, because what you just said, where it's like, oh, we go to do one thing and then we get 20 other questions and then I have to like corkboard figure it out. For the people that played in my West Marches campaign, they were doing that all the time. Like that was all the people that got to high level. Everyone had their own corkboard and their own conspiracy theories about what was going on, because it is this like super clue heavy campaign. But you tons and tons of clues, but you don't know what goes with where, right? You don't know how all the pieces fit together. You know that there are mysteries, but there's no like plot lines to solve those mysteries. So you have to just take this giant mass of stuff and then put it together in different things, and sometimes get it wrong, and then figure it out. So I'd be curious what your take is on that. And then the second thing is, have you ever played like Microscope?
No, never heard of it.
There needs to be an English thing for I'm sorry, you're welcome, because those two things, if you ever get a chance to play Microscope with some other people, especially if they're other like, people that like taking the corkboard and finding cool stuff with it, it is an amazing game. It's basically, how do you world build with a conspiracy theory board and like ages of the world, and that's the entire game, is building the world out and like setting up your ages and setting up your old empires and how things rise and fall and collapse and stuff. It's a really, really unique, fun tabletop experience that I think every DM that really likes to dig into the scenery of a world and world build, they should at least like flip through the book. And if they can, try to run a game, because it is very, very cool as far as like what you can really do with tabletop.
Yeah, I'm definitely. Side note, I didn't answer the first question. I am interested in being in your West Marches. I would not mind setting in on a session or two, as long as you don't mind me asking 1,000 questions as to when I do what, because I'll need to learn new rules. I also really love like horror stuff. Like Dread is so much fun to me. I love Dread.
See, there's so much horror in my game that is not obvious until people start playing, that it's beautiful, because even the basic premise, right? All mice know magic dies every winter and is reborn transformed every spring. That's one of the opening lines of the story. When the players start to play and realize, oh, the fact that our characters can walk and talk and use weapons and have society, all of that is magic. Normal field mice don't have that. So when magic dies every winter, that means for 3 months of the year, your society are normal field mice. You're normal animals. How does your society cope with that existential dread of the fact that you're basically going to have a mini apocalypse every winter?
I need you to watch Burrow's End, and I know you don't like actual plays, but like I need you to watch Burrow's End on Dropout.
Okay.
It's a short one. It's like maybe 12 episodes.
It's a short one. It's only
like
50 hours long.
Oh
yeah, I know. It's funny that we can say, oh, it's a short one. It's only probably 50 hours long.
Most of their episodes are about 2 hours long.
3
hours, so like 30-ish, maybe 40.
Still pretty.
It's a lot, but like it's all they play stoats. They're all stoats.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very Watership Down. It's very Secret of Nim. It's very I know that it will get your brain cooking in a really good way.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm gonna need you to watch that.
It sounds like it's up in my alley. If you have the stream loaded, you can see, I don't know, it'd be right up here, right? You can see that there's a guy that's there, and that guy is a weasel. That is Baron Bartleby. Yeah, he's a lot. I've not had any group of people go through the campaign and be like, yeah, maybe the weasels aren't that bad. Every time there's any interactions with the weasels, they're like, okay, everybody get out your books. We're going to find all the war crimes we can find and commit every one. The Geneva Convention is now a checklist. Like, because they, in the Quick Start adventure, which is going to be on the Kickstarter, which is coming out in probably May, in the Quick Start adventure, one of the encounters that you can encounter is you find some weasels that are out to try to find new slaves at the beginning of the year, right? Because they've also just woken up into having intelligence, and they don't want to do their own work. They want to find mice to be slaves, to work them until they die, and then they eat them. So you encounter
nothing else.
Very efficient, right? So the one of the things that I've really enjoyed watching is that moment of like, genre awareness is not exactly the right thing, of like, oh, I now understand the vibe of this campaign, where they fight. There's a group of 2 weasels, and each of the weasels has a cord where they have a slave mouse attached to them. And the first time one of the weasels gets hit, they'll use their ability Raise Shield, which yanks the mouse in the way, and the mouse takes the blow for them. And every time that happens, the players are like, okay, fuck these guys.
Yeah, that'll do it. That'll do it.
Beautiful, every time.
I love it. That sounds excellent. But yeah, I think we actually are much more similar in our campaign stuff than we thought. And my reason for that is, if I don't want to do it, I don't do it. You also don't want to do it, so you don't. I am just an artsy-fartsy theater kid, and I like making pretty props and letters, so I do that. I like having the backstories interwoven, so I do it. But you don't have to. I don't like sandboxes, so I don't run them.
Interesting.
I don't like running sandboxes. And truthfully, they're usually not my favorite to play.
That's so wild to me. Again, that's so wild to me as someone who's run some non-sandboxy games, has played at some non-sandboxy games, and I always, as a player, I have to enjoy that game for the people I'm playing with and not for the game, which is, I mean, that's most of D&D anyways, right? You're playing because of the other people, but like, I have to really be vibing hard. Whereas like I can play an open world, I can play a sandbox game with people I can, I can play with acquaintances in a sandbox. If I'm playing in a game with a plot, I need to be playing with friends. There's a difference there.
Okay, so that's unhinged. That's insane behavior.
Because I just, and when I'm running a game, right? If I'm running a game where I need to care about the plot, I will, like my long campaigns, I will not run them for people that I don't already know and know I'll get along with and like can be happy and like I will run it for friends only. My sandbox games, I mean, we had 200 players in the playtest, right? I didn't know most of them. Like I found most of these people on Reddit. I will happily run a sandbox campaign for any random weirdo that walks in off the street, and then occasionally I have to yeet them out of my campaign from being like, having a moment where someone had one of the people who was in one of the campaigns that I ran that he wanted to DM. He'd been a player for a couple sessions, and he seemed no warning flags that we could see. He wanted to be a DM, and he did a DM session, and we had other DMs that would listen for this trial session. And in that session, where again, he knows he's being listened to by the people that run the campaign, one of the women in the game went to say something, and he told her to stop talking until the men got done discussing things. And then was confused when we booted him from the campaign. And I was just like, okay, so there's a reason we don't let the weirdos stay, but they'll get a spot to intro, and then if need be, yeet.
Yeah.
But yeah, I have had a couple of those, and yeah, running sandbox campaigns is just so much fun. It's so much of the sauce for me that I would struggle so hard to not run as a sandbox.
Why should I care though? Why do I care? As a player, as a character. Why do I care about whatever random mission I'm going on or explore? There's gotta be a plot. There's gotta be a reason for me to come to the tape, for my character to show up every day and put on their work pack and hike across all of Hyrule and, go climb to the top of Mount Doom or whatever. What's the reason?
I mean, in All Mice Die, you want your family to be best suited when winter comes. That's a very vague goal. How you go about it is entirely up to you. That's the sandbox part. Because if you don't have a goal at all, right? Even the archetypical, right? The reason it's called West Marches is because Ben Robin... Well, no. It's you are going to the Western Marches to try to claim this territory for the stuff. And he says, if you ever go back east, anyone at any time can go back east and basically retire their character. But you're here in the Western Marches because you want to explore, because you are on the frontier. That is why you were here. That's not a plot, right? That's just you're here to go explore, see what you find, see what you get into. That is very archetypical of the sandbox. And for me, that's so fun to build off of, because then for me, again, one of the only ways that I feel the players can truly develop their own pure motivations off of the world, because there is no central overarching plot that they have to do to, stop the moon from exploding or whatever the Zelda thing is from Ocarina of Time. They have this very vague overall thing, and then everything they build off of it has to be from them. They have to care about it, right? The players in campaign 5, one of the random encounters they got was there was a pregnant shrew that was fleeing from the east from oppression. And they were like, you know what? We're going to help her. She's a bit of a pain in the ass, but we're going to help her. And then they decided after they helped her that they were going to circle back to that plot line later. And they said, hey, whatever happened to that shrew? Did she ever get solved? Oh, this is what happened with her. Okay, we're going to build our whole thing around finding her a home and protecting her kids, finding out, oh, well, what happened to your husband? Where did he go? What's going on with him? And so that's not a plot that is all set up. That is just they found this thing that they were interested in, and then they could dig into the scenery. And whenever they would dig, they'd find more interesting stuff and keep going down and down and down. And I feel like players can get a very different kind of investment in the world if they have control of where they dig, but they know it's going to be fun no matter where they dig.
Sure. That makes sense.
But you hate it.
I don't want to have to prep an entire map of Hyrule, Gary. That's a lot of work. I can just prep, a haunted house and the merchant and some funny sounding NPCs, and it's done.
Right, but that's the other piece of West Marches, right? Is I didn't prep. Pem is the name of the shrew. I didn't prep anything with the shrew. It was a random encounter thing, And then when they were like, oh, now we care about it, they would then tell me, we care about that thing. We want to go set a mission to do that. And then I would prep that, right? Then I'd be like, okay, well, what's going on with the shrew? How does this fit into the world? What is the plot line? And so I'd only prep the things after they start digging. But they know that it fits in with the world because the elements that are all there, they can intuit from the rules that they've found, oh, we know how this is going to be involved. Because, yeah, I don't want to prep 500 plot lines either. I want to prep what gets used.
Sure. That makes sense. I think my thing with the with Sandbox is I don't want to play Skyrim, which I enjoyed Skyrim, don't get me wrong. Everyone who doesn't love Skyrim? But after you've done it once or twice,
mm-hmm.
there are 2 whole quests that I care about in Skyrim. Those are the only 2 I care about. I do not care about the rest of it. And part of why I care about those quests is because I am now interested in the characters that we meet, the loot, there's other factors to it. The storyline is the best storyline. Like, transparently, the Civil War plotline kind of sucks in Skyrim. So, like, I just don't do it. And I would rather play a Dragon Age. Give me Dragon Age Inquisition, where, like, there's plenty of side quests in Dragon Age Inquisition. Mm-hmm. It's still open world. And again, the video game to TTRPG, it's not an exact one-to-one copy here, but, like, bear with me on an analogy. There's still plenty of side quests. There's still plenty of open world. There's still plenty of, like, I can go exploring in the hinterlands for 50 hours should I choose to. But I don't have... But, like, if I want to progress the plot along, there is an actual through line of plot that everything circles back to.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. Now, in tabletop, if this was a D&D campaign, I would probably put a cap as to how many side quests are actually relevant in the hinterlands. I would not let my players go spending hours upon hours in the hinterlands. I would let them if they really want to. Like, if they want to make this a hex crawl, we can pivot and do that, but then it's a hex crawl. And there's going to be consequences if you don't deal with the magic hole in the sky. Because that is the plot of Dragon Age Inquisition. Spoilers for a 12-year-old game. You gotta deal with the magic hole in the sky. If you don't deal with that, there's a problem. So, yes, they can do a sandbox, but there's gonna be consequences to that.
So I would agree with everything you said, including the part about really not liking it, if there weren't other people. Because I 100% agree that the Skyrim thing, after you do it once, it's just kind of, there's a couple things that are cool and interesting, and you kind of do those. Like, there's the sort of vampire werewolf plotline thing that happens, like, on the island thing, which is one of the ones that I remember because it's actually interesting. But, like, for the most part, it's not there. But my experience is when you have West Marches and you have this community of people doing stuff, that what you'll do is you basically have this shotgun approach of, rather than you're one person playing Skyrim, you are a group of 30 people playing Skyrim who know that you can't individually go and complete any of the quests by yourself. And so with the 30 people, one person's like, actually, I find the Civil War plotline super interesting. Can people please come and do the Civil War with me? And then someone goes, that plotline is boring. I don't really think it's very fun. I'm not going to do that. And they just straight up don't. Or people like, I'm kind of indifferent with it. Hey, if I go do that Civil War plotline with you, will you do this Vampire on the Island quest line with me? And then there is this sort of thing where, again, the whole key is not that exploring the sandbox is fun. It's exploring the sandbox with our friends and having these sort of give and take things where we all care about different little pieces and we're working together to figure out what we're doing. And that's really fun to me. That's where the sauce is when it comes to sandbox. Because I 100% agree. If it was just me tinkering in the sandbox by myself, I'd get bored super fast. But the fun part is being able to, as a DM, shotgun all these things that are out here, and then seeing, oh, everybody's going to latch on to something a little bit different. And then you have basically some people who aren't interested in what's going on and they fade away from the campaign. You have some people who are generally interested and they like the vibes of things, but they haven't really found something that's their thing. And so they'll fill out groups and they'll be part of the community in a general form. And you have the couple people that are like, seriously, we have an opinion and we're going to drive the plot, who then pull the others along. And then usually over time, that third group just expands out until it's most of the people in the campaign have some overarching plot line that they care about. And when they're playing at high levels, it's not, is this a thing in the scenery that I found the one quest in Skyrim that I care about? It's, yeah, I have my one or two things that I really care about, but everybody else in the group does. And if we've got a group of 10 people that all have different one or two quests that they care about, that is literally years of play just in the round table of sharing the spotlight and sharing the quests and things with each other as you're working together as a team.
Okay. I'm seeing the appeal here. I understand the argument. Why don't you like linear?
Because it's boring. because I've done the other one so often that when I get into the sort of linear plotline stuff, I'm like, oh, I'm on autopilot and it's boring for me to DM.
Interesting. Because I don't think I've ever, and again, I've only got 3 years of experience, so maybe it'll come and I'll become a curmudgeon leader, but I have never felt bored by a linear game.
Let me say this a little differently. When I've run linear games, I have never felt excited to sit down and start after we've played a couple of sessions. Will I have fun in running the game? Will I have interesting things to do? Yes. Am I going to be sitting about it the night before, like, ooh, this could happen, or this could happen, or maybe, what if they do this? Or like, I'm not, mustache twirling the day before after the first couple of sessions. It doesn't inspire me anymore. And I go, oh yeah, I mean, that's basically where they're going. That's what they're going to do. And yeah, we'll see how it resolves. They're going to do some stuff that'll surprise me and it'll be fun, but I'm not inspired. And up until a few years ago, I had to always, before I ran a session, I would have to say to myself, the people actually, nobody's holding a gun to their head. They actually want to be here. They want to show up. My players are actually having fun. I'm not wasting everybody's time, right? By running this game for them and making them feel like they're obligated to show up to my campaign because they want to see what the ending is, right? That sensation. But when I run a sandbox, that little imposter demon in my head goes away. Like, it is very, very minimal. And I can just be like, oh yeah, we're going to have fun. I have no idea what's going to happen, but I know the world well enough that what does happen in session is going to follow a set of rules that you can figure out how the rules work, so that when you guys do solve stuff and you just start tinkering with the background, you're going to start making things and be like, oh, we now understand how the world works, and be able to make decisions not based on clues that you've found to get to, like, oh, this clue and this clue and this clue means this solution. It's, oh, we've learned these mechanics and now we can use these mechanics to get the solution. But we didn't need a specific set of clues. We just needed to know how the world worked because we lived there long enough.
Would you say you're a people pleaser, Gary?
Probably, yeah. I am. Okay. I am an aggressively social person. One of my friends has told me on multiple occasions. I don't know if you've read the Dresden Files series.
No, but I'm aware of them. I'm familiar. In
the Dresden Files, there are different types of vampires. There are the traditional, like, Bram Stoker murder vampires. They feed off of people and you die.
Blah, blah, blah.
And then there are the, like, maybe not Twilight vampires, but the more modern vampires that can, like, drink your blood and then do, like, whammy things, but they're not going to kill you most of the time when they feed off of you. And then there are the White Court vampires, which they're like psychic vampires. They feed off of energies, and they tend to specialize. So they might have like a lust vampire, or they might have someone who feeds off of fear or something like that. But they can just feed off of social energy. And I have been described more than once as a social vampire, where like I have to have that social energy and that desire to not be wasting everyone else's time, because I know being around people, I'm getting sort of like a feed off of their energy. Like, oh, I don't want to be wasting other people's time. I don't want to be draining other people for me to get a benefit from this. And not running a linear plot makes that voice kind of go away for me.
Okay. The reason I ask is because, like, the anxiety seemed to be around pleasing other people, and your fear of not being able to please other people. And I, as an extrovert, as a people pleaser, my therapist has told me to knock it off multiple times, but, like, as a people pleaser, that's why I like linear plots.
Oof.
Because I can make sure that I hit every note that I know will make you go, oh my god, this game is amazing. I can do that, and I can set it up, and I can make the build up, and I can make it worth it, and I can make the finale not suck. Versus a sandbox where, like, hey, I'm here for 5 sessions. Let's see what you got, and maybe we'll get to my backstory, or maybe it'll be something that I care about. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
That's so interesting to me, because again, I think the pressure of being able to perform and to get to that cool, satisfying ending is something that takes some of the fun of the game from me, where I can feel confident that I've put the hours in to make my world function and to make things make sense, right? One of the things that I am most proud of as a dungeon master is I ran a huge, long campaign. I see someone else is relating to being a social vampire. It's fun. See that. It's fun, except for when I go to a convention, then I have to do things to stop myself. Because, like, literally at the end of because I used to go to 11 conventions a year, and I would have to get done with the convention, and then I would have to drive sometimes for like 10 or 12 hours straight in perfect silence to come down off the high so I could go to sleep and function as a person again. Because I would be so overfed by the people. But one of the most satisfying things that I've ever done is end a campaign in a satisfying way that was a sandbox. So, like, the campaign was a sandbox. They got to explore wherever they went, got to become gods. They ascended. They did all this stuff. And at the end of the campaign, they got to rewrite reality. And the players, along with some of the NPCs and some of the people that had sort of like dropped into the campaign over the years, they sat down at a table and they held a vote to determine whether they wanted to allow for intelligent life to exist in the universe. And the vote passed 7-4-6 against. So the motion passed barely to allow intelligent life to happen again after they got to the end of the campaign. And, you know, I've talked to a couple of those players since that campaign ended, and I genuinely do not think if I had made that campaign more of a linear thing, I would have been able to deliver. I think the only way I could have done that and have it be as satisfying for me and for them was for it to be a sandbox ending.
Sure. And that makes sense. And I think for me, when I say linear, it doesn't mean that I have everything lined up. Like, I do not know what the end will be for my Victorian London campaign, for Fogs of London. I have no idea. I have thoughts, but we're going to see what the characters want to do after the finale of season 1, so that I can then prep that. I'm put it into something linear that makes a bit more sense. That's just how I personally prep things. I don't.
Someone commented
that is a bit grim. You right.
So what's interesting is, from the perspective of the players, I do not think they thought them not allowing intelligent life was grim. I thought they felt like the people who are arguing strongly against allowing intelligent life were very passionate, but not nihilistic, which makes it sound like, without the context, it makes it sound like they are very nihilistic. But that was because it was satisfying. Because that makes me wonder, right? If we're talking about these terms and you say linear, but you don't know what's going to happen later until they build the pieces together. In my mind, that means that it's linear in that there is a line, but it's a squiggly line, right? It's not a straight line between A and B. And I feel like a lot of times people say linear, they mean a module. They mean something that has A and B and C, and then you build a bridge to get from A to B to C. And for a sandbox, there is those pieces, right? You are getting this piece and then finding the next piece in the puzzle, but the who's doing it, right? How you're going about doing it is backwards. Where it's like, oh, as the DM, I need to make sure I can put A to B to C in front of you so you can get to C. Whereas when I'm running a sandbox, maybe you found C first. That is not my job to put them in the right order or to place them in front of you.
So that is pretty close to how I do things. Is so I know that I have a super cool boss fight idea. That's the end point. And I know in order to get to this, I need to lay some clues. So I'm going to put, if this is D, I'm going to put B here, C here, A here, and they're going to start at session 1. And then they might go to D, C, A, and then loop back. They might go in a straight line, they might not. They might skip A. And then I have to figure out how to put that back in, which, easy enough to do, depending on how that goes. Snark. That's fair. I understand.
Yeah, he was one of the votes. I actually don't remember how your character voted on the intelligent life versus not. I want to say I think you were on the side of not allowing it to happen again, but I don't remember 100%. Because he was a player.
Probably more aligned than it seems in some ways.
100%.
That's what we're finding in this conversation.
Yeah. But which is great.
I think we've come to that realization about 5 times in this conversation about assorted levels. But yeah, so yes, it's linear in that I know that Big Bad is here, and I need to get you there, and Magic MacGuffin 1, 2, and 3 need to be found in order to beat the Big Bad, and in order to reveal who the Big Bad is, because again, I love a mystery. To figure out who's moving these chess pieces around. You gotta figure that out. So that's what I prep. But I don't care what order they go in. And again, that's where my newspapers come into play, where they can see that, ooh, hey, there's been a lot of conversation about missing people over on the east side. Maybe we should go talk to someone. Or, ooh, this hospital's been getting a lot of news lately. Maybe we should go check that out. Ooh, there's a party over here, and this person's been in the news a lot. Let's go talk to them. Let's send a letter to these contacts. Let's send a letter over here. Let's start a scandal and just piss off Lady Janice because she's the bitch. There's so many ways that they can go about it. I don't care how they go about it. I just want to know what the end goal is. Versus, I guess, to me, when I hear sandbox, I think big, wide open square, and I think Breath of the Wild, right? You get off tutorial plateau, and you know you need to get to the castle eventually, but you have no additional guidance on where to go next. Have fun, kid. And that's overwhelming to not have, like, a point.
Yeah.
Even Strahd, which I would argue, like, Curse of Strahd is fairly sandbox adjacent in that you can kind of go whatever direction you want once you get out of Barovia's, like, the city of Barovia. Once you get to Vallaki, things really open up. And you can go investigate. There's so many different quests you can go on. But all of those quests do lead back to the overarching plot of you need to stop Strahd. Save Irina, kill Strahd. Like, that is...
And then rewind because nothing matters.
10-year-old game.
Also, one of my biggest problems with Strahd is that you can't actually kill him and nothing you do matters. That is unbelievably frustrating to have written in the module.
We didn't do that. We fixed that.
Right. Again, it's one of the things of like, nobody runs anything as written, but what is written should be helpful for how a lot of people will run it. So if you run something that's like everybody has to change, probably shouldn't have it written like that. But it's interesting to me because for me, right, I think I agree with you that if you get to that end of the tutorial plateau and you just have the world and no quest hooks to start, that's wrong. But also, I've never played in a sandbox campaign that functions like that. So, because I think that is something that would be bad form in a sandbox campaign, just in general. In All Might Die, if you play World Architect, which is the sort of mini game to build your campaign, World Architect says you set up 5 seed quests, and then the 5 seed quests are your answers to certain things. It's, if you whatever class you want to have as the unlock first, which by default is the scout class because they're the exploration heavy class. So unlocking the class that explores is setting a very clear signal to people of exploration matters. So we're starting with this sort of quest line open, and then like things like how does magic function this year, and what do you want to say about how magic functions? What does society say it functions this year? So these questions that you're answering, where you're giving them these sort of starting things, and be like, okay, well, you've got some options here, and when you go down any of these things, down any of these plot lines, you're going to find, I pick seed number 1, I'm going to find 15 different things down this area, and maybe only one of them will be interesting to me, but then one of them will be interesting to a different person, and then one of them will be different to, we'll go and we'll have 5 people go and shotgun all these quests, or the shotgun all these like plot hooks, and then different people will attach themselves to different ones, and that's how the sandbox gets started. It gets started on these seeds that then spread out from every region, because you're exactly correct. A bad sandbox does not give you an intro into the world. It does not give you a reason to care about exploring, about going out and finding stuff. And that can work in a single player game like Breath of the Wild, because you can just jump and run around and fly things and look with your eyeballs until you see something interesting. But that's not how it is in a tabletop game. In a tabletop game, you need to have something there to give your initial quest hooks. And so I think if you listen, even like Colville, when he explains what is a West Marches game or what is a sandbox campaign, he says explicitly, I take these 5 or 6 different modules, I put them all in the world, and then I put all the quest hooks for all those modules, and I see what people bite on, and then I build up from there. And that's how I think a lot of sandboxes get run, is with a very heavy set of hooks. But I think the difference is here is this thing that is the goal, and I don't care how you get there, but this is the goal. Where the sandbox is like, here's 15 goals, I don't care which one you get to or how you get there, but here's all the hooks to get started, and then whatever paths you go down is going to be the world that you're playing and the story that you develop. And maybe if you don't tread on some of those paths, they will get way worse because you didn't do anything with them. But it's still a sandbox, because it's not like I'm punishing you because you didn't do this plot line. It's more like, yeah, that makes sense. We didn't interact with that thing. We heard about the people disappearing in one side of town, and we didn't go to do anything. And then we go back later and we're like, oh shit, now there's a horrible flesh monstrosity that's all the collective citizens of that entire district. Are we getting punished for not doing that because we didn't follow the plot? Well, no, we had 15 other things that we were doing at the time. It was on our list. It was just really low, and now it's much higher because there's a flesh mob of arms rolling down the street. Now we care a lot more.
Well, if it isn't the consequences of my own actions.
Or my own inactions.
Modules are nice for reducing options paralysis for newbies, perhaps. I don't know. So when I first started DMing, which, again, if you're newer to the chat, I started about 3 years ago. I started with one-shots that were pre-written, and I very quickly, just by reading, so my haunted house that I do for my newbies one-shot, was the first one-shot that I ran. It's the Ghost of Saltmarsh first adventure, the first half of the first Ghost of Saltmarsh adventure, because it is so long.
So,
and I've had to trim it down so much.
Here's the thing, though.
It is an insane amount of adventure in one level 1 adventure.
Here's the thing, though. I also think that, like, we're talking terms, right? As an older DM, when we say modules, I think we're talking about different things. Because how many sessions does it take you to get through a module in your mind?
A module, so like Wild Beyond the Witchlight is a module. So like 16-ish.
Okay. In my mind, a module is 1 to 3 sessions. So
okay.
when someone says
verbiage roadblock.
Right. So I don't know. Like, so Itherigelli, I don't know how to say your name. Itherigelli? I'm not sure. But what they're saying is module. I'm curious what you believe a average session length for a module is, because, you know, this is, I don't know how much of an old man on a sandbox on a soapbox I want to get to. But like, one of the ideas of what a module is and why it was the way that it was originally they had 2 desires that they wanted to fulfill. They wanted to have adventures that they could sell, and they wanted to have modules that they could run at conventions, because they made, in the very early days of D&D, they made a ton of money off of running at conventions. Ton of money. They made more money running in conventions than they made off of book sales, right? So they ran these single or like 1 or 2 shot modules at conventions, and that was the sort of originator. And then they had the adventures, which would usually be like maybe 1 to 2 levels. So you'd have like maybe 10 sessions long for like an adventure. But the modules were smaller. The modules were like 1 session or 2 session things. So like if you look at all of the LFR modules, the Living Forgotten Realms ones that I was talking about earlier, they're almost exclusively one-shots. They might be one-shots that are linked to one another, but those are what...
How long is a one-shot for you?
4 hours.
Okay.
So it's a single convention slot, which is 4 hours.
Okay. I really need to start making pronounceable names one day. Meh.
I mean, if you
know who we're talking about.
If you're not going to be sad if I just call you Rage, because that's the part of the name that I can actually attach my brain to, then we're good. If you don't want me to call you Rage, give me a different name to call you.
I mean, lack of sandboxiness compared to TTRPG. Okay, so I would actually 3 to 4 session modules max. Okay, so I don't know. Olden days. Because I'm a newfangled player. I play 5 and 5.5.
Which is not me. I'm not throwing any shade about that, right? But it's more of a thing of when people are talking about modules, and if someone who's only played 5e thinks of a module and they think of Curse of Strahd and they talk about that, someone who's played like the original Curse of Strahd, which is much, much, much shorter, is going to go, that's not a module, that's an adventure, or what might be called like an adventure path in like Pathfinder, where it's like, no, that's a big chonky thing, and that's really weird to consider as the norm.
Yeah, I have found, like, playing Wild Beyond the Witchlight, and I haven't run Curse of Strahd, but I have played in it. I've run a couple of Candlekeep mysteries, and I've run a couple Ghost of Saltmarsh stuff.
the amount of heavy editing that I had to do, because there was just so much stuff in there, was not ideal. So
I am listening.
I was curious what you were fishing out.
So, an example here is this. So this is a module, right?
Okay.
So this is Cold Hall by Bill Fawcett, who did some really awesome stuff. And this module is this long, right? This is how long the module is. And this contains characters, right? Characters at the end. Has your character sheets. It also contains some other stuff that is very fascinating. Maybe as a 5e only person. What is this page?
Oh, hey, that's your little cheat sheet that you showed me earlier.
Maybe. That's not what it is, though.
I can't tell what that looks like. A calendar or something, maybe?
So, this very top, I don't know if you can read it.
Random numbers for DM to use instead of dice.
So, this is a tournament module. And a lot of the early modules were tournament modules. And the reason that it has characters in here is these are the characters you're supposed to use for the adventure, so everyone's starting on the same page. And this list that was in the back of the book was what the DM was supposed to use as the results for their d20s and their percentile rolls and stuff, so that it was fair, right? So you didn't have a DM that was rolling all natural 20s against you. Every DM was working off of that list in the back of the book for what their random rolls were. Now that's not what I consider a module, right? Because this is older than me. Literally, this is older than me. This Kobold Hall, this thing is Origins 1983. So this is older than you too.
I can still hear you through my headphones, but if we're show and telling, I will get my stuff out. But I just pinged you in Discord. Module means anything officially written, basically, whether that's a one-shot or a full adventure book. Just a fun fact.
Interesting. I don't disagree that there is a version of... I don't think anyone is wrong when they say Curse of Strahd is a module. What I do think is if we are talking about it, we should probably say what we mean by the duration. Because if I say... as a sandbox, I'm going to seed my sandbox world with 5 modules, and you're thinking those 5 modules are like, Storm King's Thunder and Curse of Strahd, and you're like, how the hell are you doing that? That's like 50 levels of play that you're putting into the campaign. It's like, no. I'm putting in these modules that are 1 to 2, maybe 3 levels of play at max. And a lot of them are going to be like 3 shots, right? It's going to be like most of a level's worth of play, and then seeing where everyone deviated, where everyone went from it, because that would make it interesting, right? So the only reason that I was making the differentiation is because if we don't define what we mean by module, we're going to be talking past each other.
Yeah. So, module, for me, is anything pre-written and not just straight up homebrewed. So, dealer's choice on if that fits your vibe or not.
Yeah.
For me, I realize it's just a different type of prep, and it's a prep that I enjoy less because I'm not putting as much of my brain power into it.
Mm-hmm.
I have found that I am... unfortunately more bored when prepping for Witchlight. I'm not excited to prep Witchlight in comparison to, oh my gosh, I'm so excited to prep my Fogs of London campaign because it's got all of this drama and intrigue that I've seeded into it because it is a creation of mine, of my own. So, there's probably, I think I would be more excited if it was Curse of Strahd, realistically, just because it is more of my vibe than what Wild Beyond the Witchlight is. But this is my scrapbook and all of its glory.
It's so pretty.
And part part of why this is the way it is, I would not, again, I don't do this for pre-written stuff, because I love myself and it's already written down. I just take the PDF, snip it, and drop it in a Word doc and shorten it down. But part of why I do this for my Fogs of London is that because it is historically adjacent, there's a lot of historical stuff that I'm adding in for reference. And again, I don't use this at the table.
Mm-hmm.
This is just me. This is my version of world building.
Yeah.
This is my... You know what? Hey, anesthetics were just now getting popular around this time. What does that mean? Do they have, like, what does a hospital actually look like if I'm going to throw them into a hospital? Like, can I find cool documents? And again, I have a library science degree. This is kind of my bread and butter. I love research. I love this shit. This is all me just having a heyday.
Yeah, whereas...
It's not necessary. It's just something that's fun.
Which is why when I showed someone the spreadsheet of all the math for the orbital dynamics and how the trade winds work on my game in the campaign world, and they were like, "That's insanity." I'm like, my physics degree exists because this is fun. So, and we'll probably have to wrap this up pretty soon. I've been having, so before the stream, I took my older daughter to her ceramics class for an hour and a half. And then I took her skating at the skating rink for 2 hours. And so my wife has been in charge of the tiniest new human for like 10 hours without help from me. So I should probably go in and do that here pretty soon.
Sure. Well, but yeah, I think the long story short here is I think we actually are more aligned than what we think on things.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds like we would probably like each other's choice or style of GMing.
Mm-hmm.
We just use different words. And we play different systems, so...
See, one of the things that I would be super fascinated by, right? Because you have this comic of like, I don't see a reason why Sandbox is fun. I don't understand that. I would be really curious if you'd be willing to give it a try, if you play a couple of times and have that like, oh, there's a mystery here. There's something to dig into. Because like a well-run sandbox is inherently a giant laundry list of mysteries. And you get to choose your own mystery to dig into. And I one of the videos that I think is out on the channel, I'm not sure. It might be coming out soonish on the channel because I recorded all them all at once. But there's this thing where, I went and joined a couple of West Marches games where, and people would tell me like, oh, I don't want to play in sandboxes. I don't want to play in West Marches because there's no story. There's no plot. And I was so confused at what the hell they were talking about because I was like, how can there not be a plot?
That's what we've all been told. Up until recently, when Critical Role's Campaign 4 is a West March, that's the first overarching plot West March a lot of people have seen. And I think maybe in the creator space is the only reason I've heard otherwise.
Yeah, it was something that was so wild to me because when I was like, I don't know how you can have a West Marches with no plot, because if you don't have a plot that people care about, you can't schedule games, right? You can only schedule a game when you have a goal of what you're doing. So if you don't have goals, if you don't have motivation, if you don't have plot, then you can't schedule games. And if you can't schedule games, then you don't have sessions. So how did we get here if we don't have a plot? And then I played in some games where it was literally you start in town, go out of town, you rolled up 2d6 wolves, roll initiative, you fight 2d6 wolves, you get 15 gold pieces and a short sword, and then go to the next hex you rolled and you got 2d6 bandits. And I was like, oh shit, is this what people think West Marches is? Because if this is what people think West Marches is, this is awful. Like, this is not fun. This is someone who thought, oh, I have a couple of charts, so I don't have to world build. I don't have to have a plot. I don't have to prep anything that's interesting to do. I don't have to have a world that is internally consistent because I have these charts and we can just roll on charts and nobody has to care. if that is what people think West Marches is, yeah, that's garbage. Like, don't play that game. But that has nothing to do with my West Marches games. My West Marches games are, there are 500 mysteries out here. I don't know if you're ever going to find the answers to any of them, but I'm really excited to see you figure out what the rules of the world are and how everything functions. Good luck. And I will say, as someone who's a primarily 5th edition player, or primarily 5e and Daggerheart, right? Have you played other stuff as well?
Yeah. 5.5, 5, Daggerheart, and I've played some Dread, which is just a one-shot thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I've got a couple on my shelf I haven't had a chance. Tales from Elsewhere. I've played Peter's game.
Mm-hmm.
Tales from Elsewhere.
Have you played a game that is not a one-shot game that you can't have builds for?
No.
Okay. I would be interested to see what you would do with my game then, because it is a very different mindset.
Yeah. I'm willing to try it. One of my New Year's resolutions was to play more games than just Daggerheart and D&D. So
it is officially 5.5 now. They announced at Gamma, which I got to be there for the announcement. That was kind of interesting. So yes, it is officially 5.5. And what's wild is we were talking about
that as a joke, and then they stole the bit from all of the creators.
I mean, the same thing with 3.5, right? 3.5 was the same way. Like, it's a thing for a long time now. I very much thought they were going to call it 5.5 eventually. It was just how resilient were they going to be with their marketing of things. But Rage says, maybe I'll be the vanguard for salvaging West March's reputation. What was wild is that up to a few years ago, I did not know that there was the disconnect. So when people said I didn't like West Marches, I was like, wow, that's weird to me, because I've seen so much joy out of my games. And what people are telling me about how West Marches work and how my games work, I feel like these things don't match up. And then I joined a bunch of West Marches campaigns, and I played in some games. And I was like, oh, this is what they think this is. I now understand. You're using a term that is not how I'm using this term. And I agree with you that game is terrible. But also, I don't think that game is inherently West Marches. Like, because that's not how Ben Robbins designed his West Marches games. Like, that's not how the game functioned, right? The thing that gets talked about a lot, right, is the Gary Gygax quote where he's like, you can't have a meaningful campaign if you don't keep track of time. Like, the progression of time is necessary for a meaningful campaign. And for a lot of West Marches stuff, and for games where you've got a stable of characters, I agree with that for the most part. Like, if the world is going to feel like the world, time has to pass and time has to matter. And if it doesn't, you have these things which, if it's not a problem that stops you from enjoying the game, don't try to solve it, right? Like, don't fix it if it's not broken, or if it's broken but it doesn't matter, where like the players go, we were level 1 people with like a dream and a hope like 4 weeks ago, and we're now ascending to godhood. This is real weird. But hey, it was fun the whole way through. Nobody cares. Don't worry about it. But if that's a thing that's going to bother you, or you like to see what happens when time passes, then it really matters. Like in the campaign that I ran, one of the things that was music to my ears was having a player say to me, I was going to take out this character, but I'm going to not take out that character. I'm going to take out a different character to session today because I need more downtime. I need more real life days in the game to do the stuff that I want to do. I need more downtime to do fun stuff. And I've never had anyone say that to me in any other style of campaign, because no, that just doesn't happen if time does not matter.
For sure. Yeah, I am absolutely willing to try anything. I'll try anything at least twice, just to make sure. So definitely down for that over the summer when I have a little bit more time. Both of my campaigns that I run take breaks over the summer, because I have players who have other extracurriculars in the summer. So
That's fair. Yeah, and my stuff will be over the summer. It'll be fun to have you there. It'll be fun to see, because also the equivalent of your trinkets that you give to your players is how magic items work in my game. Which is, when you go and you do a thing, every house, every family has their house words, right? Ours is the Fury, House Lannister, or Winter is Coming, House Stark, or Unbowed, Unbent, Unbroken, which is one of the houses of Doran that I don't remember right now. But those things, if you live those ideals, if you do those things, if you create dramatic moments that align with your sort of house mythos, you can crystallize that moment into a magic item. That's how all magic items are made. They're made through drama. And when you make that moment, it's not, oh, it's now a +1 sword. Congratulations. It's, yeah, it's a +1 sword. What else does it do? How was it created? What is the story that was there? And how is that going to be a family heirloom moving forward? And then you build it with the DM. And that trinket is a blast. It's one of my favorite parts of the system. And you can't...
I love that so much.
Yay, it's fun. And you can't build a character, because while I do love Pathfinder 2nd edition, D&D 4th edition, to a lesser extent, you can do it in like 5th edition as well, where you can plan out a character like, oh, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to take these at level 3 and that at level 8, and then I'll take this feat, or I'm going to take ASI instead, or whatever, as you build out. You can't do that in this game, because you don't know what, like, magic items is the main part of what there's no feats that exist. There's no ASI that you're choosing. There's a lot of the things that you would build for, you can't build for them until you uncover them, because it's an exploration-based game, which also means as a player, you don't have to figure out, oh man, what class should I build? Oh, well, I've got to go read all the classes, and I've got to figure out, which classes thing. And oh, well, what do they get at like level 2 or level 3? What is my subclass going to be? What spells should I take? No, you don't have to do any of that. You roll some dice, you see what classes you qualify for. Once you figure out what classes you can be, you figure out what the intro feature is for those, and you say, hey, I've got 3 characters to start with. I might have 6 or 7 characters by the time I get really into the game and I start learning the rules. Hey, let's see what the fighter does in this system. Hey, let's see, what does it mean to be a warlord? I don't have to spend an hour reading it. I can just say, cool. If I don't like it, won't play that character and I'll play somebody else. And if I like it, well, I'm probably going to like it because I did something cool, and maybe I made a magic helm that makes me a better leader or something like that. Yeah, I agree. The meta builds stuff is problematic in play, but it's such a fun thing to just have as its own separate game.
I think that there's a time and a place for those, and we don't have time for all of that tonight. I don't have time to unpack all of that, but I do think that there is a time and a place. Like, if you're like, hey, level 21 shot, bring your busted build, you're going to take on 3 Tarasques or some nonsense. Sure, pop off. You can do 300 damage in one hit. One of my friends did that. It was wild.
So we... last thing, because I've got to get going pretty soon, but last thing that I'll kind of say as a side note here, there used to be a thing called lair assaults. So lair assaults were a thing in D&D 4th edition where they said, here is a one-shot that is brutally difficult. Here's some character creation rules that you have to follow on top of the normal character creation rules. Build whatever you can and see if you can do it. And not only was it a like challenge mode, it'd be like this lair assault is level 8 only, something like that. They would also say, the company would say, if your DM gets a copy of the lair assault and then they run the lair assault, they can submit the play report. And when they submitted the play report, you would get a grade and you'd get a badge on your forum avatar that would say bronze, silver, or gold for the different lair assaults. So you could collect these achievements for these super things where you could be like, yeah, you want to play your broken build? Don't play it in our normal home game. Play your broken build in the lair assault, right? Like, let's see if we can get gold on the lair assault because everyone's playing something stupid. Great, let's do it.
Yeah. One quick thing. Have you heard of a game called Mappamundi?
Yes.
Okay. your exploration stuff when you're talking about sandboxes made me think of it. I haven't had a chance to play it, but it's sitting on my bookshelf in my game room. And it just made me think of it when you were talking about the exploration thing. But Renegade Rolls, Rich, hypes it up so much that I truly got convinced to buy it because of him when I went to visit in Scotland. So,
yeah, it's on my list of stuff to read. I've not read it yet. I've watched a video on it, and I've talked to. I don't think it was Rich. I think it was someone else about it. I'm interested to kind of see what I want to do with it, but I tend to not read stuff while I'm designing. And right now I'm in like active designer mode.
sure.
So I tend to read a lot of stuff when I'm running a bunch of games for ideas on how to fix things as I go along. But I don't tend to read a lot when I'm building stuff. Like right now I'm putting a lot of work into building the magic system for All My Die, and trying to make it easy for somebody to do stuff, because I'm going to be running the campaign this summer, the Age of the Oak campaign, and I want all the rules to be finalized so that I can build the rules with the community. Right? We say like, how does magic work this year? Your characters will know almost immediately as soon as the campaign starts. So this isn't spoilers for anyone. Let's answer the questions for World Architect to build magic for this year and see how magic works.
Since it's rather rules light. Mapamundi sounds interesting. I was interested in it because it's rules light. Because the less I have to read, the better. I'm going to be so real with you. I love reading. I have a library degree. I was a librarian in 2 different libraries before I ended up in my corporate job that I'm in right now. But the less math I have to do and the less rule bookkeeping I have to do, the better for me.
See, for me, it's more of again, it's the same thing with running my campaigns. It's what is the minimum I have to do in order to start playing, and that's why I'm like, yeah, if I can opt in to reading an extra 300 pages of stuff that I don't need to do, it'd be really nice if it's there, but if I have to read all that stuff before I can get started playing, like, you know, I had a player who was very much I want to make the right choice. I want to give D&D the good college try. And she was really, really excited to play, and she was really, really wanting to do it. And she loved Harry Potter, and so she was gonna play a wizard. And this is right before I stopped running 5th edition. And she felt like she needed to read all of the cantrips and first level spells and understand how they worked before she could build her wizard. And I was like, I understand why you want to do this. But man, I just got to watch it slowly murder her will to play. And I'm like,
Yeah, that's rough. Okay, so I'm going to take back what I just said about rules light is better. Because I constantly say, I don't like crunch. I don't want to be bogged down by inventory. I don't want to keep track of nonsense. But then in our pirate campaign that I mentioned in our Daggerheart campaign, because I'm the captain, I immediately told my DM, I'm like, I have an idea for how I can track all the ship's inventory and all of this stuff, and I have a plan. Do you want me to do this? Do you want to do it? I don't want to step on your toe. Like, again, hyperfixation. And so, it's not that I don't like crunch. It's that I want the crunch to be important. If I'm playing a survivalist game, crunch is important. You need to keep track of your rations and your water and your everything.
right.
If I'm playing, again, Fogs of London, all of my characters are nobles. I don't fucking care how much gold they have. If they spend enough gold that I start getting concerned as to what they're spending, we have bigger issues.
Yeah.
So,
Rage has a really good point here, and basically it's more rules can help you make decisions. And I think that what he or she is basically saying is something I agree with, which is basically all rules are a language. It's a way that we are translating this world into something that we can then say, the DM is saying, or the GM or whatever is saying, this is how the world works. These are the options laid out in front of you, and then you can make that choice. If you can run it where you need no rules at all, right? You can just yes and riff off of stuff, not need those at all. However, when you do have rules, and that can sort of narrow the focus in, right? The idea that like restriction breeds creativity, that can be really fun. That can be really a big piece of it. And I think that the more the rules get in the way of the fun, that's where people start to have the thing where if the rules are something, it's like, oh, we're doing a thing, we have to stop what we're doing to figure out what the rule is. That's a problem. And then the second one is when it's a barrier to entry, like that the girl that wanted to start playing D&D, and she felt like she needed to read every wizard spell so she could pick the right wizard spells. That's creating a barrier to entry that I think is a problem. I think is a problem with rules games.
Yeah, I personally, Rage, do not have any issues with decision making, but I will save that for a future video because I know that you said that you needed to leave about 10 minutes ago.
I do.
But yeah, I think rules and crunch is dependent on the immersion, because again, if I wasn't playing captain, I probably wouldn't need to know what the ship's inventory is, but because I'm playing the captain, I feel like I should probably have that information and like run that in some capacity because I'm the captain. Feels relevant. And
you know, in All My Sty, you start every game in town, you end every game in town. So I don't need to care what your rations are, because it's fine. Every character you're playing is explicitly a member of a noble family. I don't have to care about how much a sword costs. You're going to have the basic equipment that you need. However, when you go on an adventure, your shield has a certain amount of hit points. Why are we tracking the hit points on your shield? Well, because it's very likely to become relevant. That's the reason we're tracking. We're not tracking rations because nobody cares. We're not tracking how much does your sword cost because nobody cares. That's not dramatically interesting. We track the stuff that's dramatically interesting, and we don't track the things that aren't dramatically interesting. And if you find something is a rule that you're tracking, but there's never a drama, there's never drama about that rule, you might be able to just remove the rule and keep moving.
Exactly. But that is for a future video that I it's in the process of being scripted, so.
Yep. All right. Well, Misty, thank you very much for sitting down and chat with me. I was planning on being here for an hour. It's been a lot more than an hour. So this was a blast. This was a lot of fun. And for everybody else that tuned in, for those that are tuning into the VOD, hey, how's it going? You can check out their cool stuff on my channel. You can check stuff on her channel, Misty Steps. And for those of you guys that were joining us in the stream today, Rage and Snark, and one other person who's way up there, the Hearthwitch. Which I think I know who two of those three people are. Thank you very much for joining us in. And check out my stuff on my channel. Check out the stuff on her channel. And I'll probably be doing more streams later. Later, folks.